So if you truly want to stand out, don't chase her with shallow words. See her with deeper ones. Speak to her soul, not just her style. Compliment what the world overlooks. Because when a woman feels recognized for who she is, not just how she looks, that's when she remembers you. Not for a moment, but for a feeling she'll crave again. There's a language more powerful than charm, more magnetic than looks, and more unforgettable than wealth. That language is how you make a woman feel seen, not just admired, but disarmed. And the truth is, most men never tap into this. We're not talking about the tired, you're beautiful, or you have nice eyes. Those are easy, lazy, and safe. And safe doesn't stir her. Safe doesn't make her remember you at 2 a.m. when she can't sleep. Safe doesn't make her want you when you're not even in the room. The compliments I'm about to reveal, these are forbidden because they strike at the core of who she is. They pierce through the surface and whisper directly to her womanhood. Most men don't dare go there, but if you do, and if you mean it, she will lean in, even if she doesn't understand why. Let's begin. The first forbidden compliment is this: the way your mind works is actually sexy. You're not complimenting her body. You're not telling her she's smart like a friend. You're associating her intellect with her feminine allure. That's rare. That's bold. That's intimate. Because suddenly you've told her that her thoughts, her weird theories, her wild ideas, her way of connecting dots turn you on. She'll never forget a man who saw her brain as beautiful, not because he had to, but because he was genuinely intrigued. Now, the second, and this one's powerful, there's something about your energy that's addictive. You see, women are constantly being evaluated by what they look like. But this speaks to her essence, her vibe, her spirit. You're telling her that her presence, her light, the way she carries herself, it lingers. It stays on your skin even after she's gone. You're not complimenting her dress or her face. You're worshiping her aura. And that creates tension, the kind that lives between attraction and fascination. And then the third forbidden compliment. I love how you make people feel safe around you. Let's be honest. Few people see this side of a woman, her emotional intelligence, her ability to hold space for others. But when a man recognizes that, when he says it not as flattery but as truth, she melts. Because you've seen the part of her that nurtures, that protects, that holds people when they're hurting. You've made her feel valuable beyond beauty. And that is a rare kind of intimacy. Now understand this. These compliments aren't tricks. They are reflections of awareness. They only work if you say them when you genuinely notice. Women can smell performance, but when they feel witnessed, truly witnessed, everything changes. So why do they drool? Not because you use a line, not because you're smooth, but because you touched something sacred. Her desire to be known, not just wanted. And you unlock that. She won't just desire you. She'll crave the way you see her. The first forbidden compliment is this: the way your mind works is actually sexy. It's not just words strung together to flatter a woman. It's a deeply intimate observation that goes beyond the surface and dives into the core of how a woman interprets herself. In a world where women are constantly being evaluated based on physical appearance, a compliment like this breaks the mold. It separates you from every man who ever stopped at, "You're hot," or "You look good tonight." This compliment has power because it says, "I see how you think, and it moves me." There's a psychological shift that happens when a woman hears this. Suddenly, she feels like her ideas matter, not just her looks. Her opinions, her perspectives, her unique ways of breaking down life and putting it back together become valuable. You're not just praising her intelligence like a teacher applauding a good student. You're saying that her mind has magnetism. It's captivating, it draws you in. When a man finds a woman's thought process sexy, it activates something primal in her. She feels accepted, validated, and desired for who she is, not just what she presents. Most men won't go here. They're either too afraid or too lazy. It takes awareness to notice the way a woman's mind weaves through a conversation, how she adds a surprising spin to a simple topic, how she unpacks emotion in a way that makes you stop and think. When you pick up on that and mirror it back to her in a compliment, it's like giving her a mirror that reflects the parts of her most people overlook. It's not performative, it's perceptive. And perception is attractive. Imagine you're in a conversation with her. She's talking about a book she read or an idea she's been pondering. Maybe she's connecting dots between philosophy and personal experience, or breaking down the emotional dynamics in her friend group. You look at her, not just her lips moving, not just the light in her eyes, but how her mind is dancing through these thoughts. And then you say, the way your mind works is actually sexy. Pause, let it land, don't rush it. That moment becomes a freeze frame. She'll replay it. She'll hear it again in your voice when she's lying in bed thinking about you. Because you didn't just compliment her body or her beauty, you complimented her being. And what's powerful is that this kind of compliment doesn't expire. Beauty fades, outfits change, but the mind, it grows, it evolves. So when you validate that part of her, it plants something. A woman begins to associate your presence with self-discovery. You become the man who reminded her that she's not just pretty, she's potent. You saw fire in her mind and called it sexy. That changes the game. And let's not pretend this doesn't turn her on, because it does. When a woman feels intellectually desired, it ignites a very different kind of chemistry. She doesn't just feel like a sexual object. She feels like an emotional weapon, like someone whose thoughts can make a man feel. And to be honest, that kind of affirmation lingers far longer than any compliment about curves or lashes. But again, this isn't about flattery. It's about precision. You have to mean it. You have to actually listen to her, not just wait for your turn to speak. When she senses that you're genuinely fascinated by her brain, her creativity, her inner world, it creates a soft unraveling. Her guard drops, her intrigue rises. She starts to lean in, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. And that shift, that's where attraction stops being physical and starts becoming emotional. The second forbidden compliment is, there's something about your energy that's addictive. These aren't just flattering words strung together. They are an invitation into a woman's deeper identity. Most compliments focus on the external, the visible, the obvious. But when you speak to a woman's energy, you're doing something different. You're speaking to the invisible forces that surround her, the way she moves, the way she enters a room, the way people lean in when she speaks. You're acknowledging a presence that can't be seen, but can absolutely be felt. And that hits different. Women are constantly praised for how they look, for how well they dress, how good their hair smells, how pretty their smile is. And while those things are lovely, they're also predictable. Every woman with a phone and a social media account has heard it all before. But when a man stops and says, your energy, there's something about it I can't shake, she immediately knows you're paying attention to something more subtle. You're not just reacting to her physical form, you're responding to her field, her essence, her vibe. That changes the dynamic, that creates mystery. And this compliment carries weight because it's not quantifiable. What does energy mean? It means how she makes you feel. It means there's a gravitational pull to her, something magnetic and hard to name. Maybe it's the way she looks at people when they speak, or how she carries silence without making it awkward, or the soft power she holds when she enters a room. Maybe it's the way she doesn't need to shout to be heard, or the way her laughter feels like a release. Whatever it is, you felt it, and instead of trying to define it, you compliment it. That's what makes it addictive. Not because she tries, but because she simply is. Women notice when you notice the unseen. When you reflect her energy back to her, it feels intimate. It feels personal. It feels earned. You're not scanning her outfit for something to point out. You're not looking for a way to impress her. You're speaking from a place of presence. And when you do that, she senses it. She knows you see something others miss. And the truth is, women don't forget the men who make them feel seen without being looked at. When you say a woman's energy is addictive, you're telling her that it's not just what she does, it's how she does it. You're telling her that her way of being leaves an impression. It lingers. It stays on your skin like perfume long after she's gone. That's not a compliment you give to just anyone. That's a compliment that comes from deep observation, from emotional awareness, from a man who is in tune not just with her, but with himself. Because let's be clear, to notice energy, you have to be connected to your own. You have to feel her without needing to touch her. That requires emotional maturity. And this is what elevates the conversation. You're no longer just a guy flirting. You're a man who knows how to sense a woman's presence and respond to it with reverence. When you say she's addictive, you're not saying she's a drug. You're saying she's a rhythm your soul wants more of. She becomes a song you can't stop playing, a feeling you chase without even realizing it. That kind of compliment doesn't just make her smile, it creates a deep emotional memory. This is what most men miss. They try too hard to impress instead of tune in. But when you do tune in, when you speak to her atmosphere, her frequency, her energy, she doesn't just listen. She leans in, curious. Because now it's not just about attraction, it's about recognition. She feels recognized not for how she looks, but for how she affects. And that kind of validation, it doesn't just flatter her, it awakens her. The third forbidden compliment is, I love how you make people feel safe around you. It sounds simple, maybe even too gentle, but it cuts deeper than any surface level praise could ever reach. Safety is one of the most powerful emotional currencies in the world, and when a woman hears that her presence creates a sense of calm, of ease, of comfort, it lands differently. It tells her that what she brings to the room isn't just attractive, it's healing. That she's not just desirable, she's dependable, trustworthy, grounding, and that's something most women rarely get acknowledged for. We live in a world that constantly expects women to be dazzling, desirable, and dynamic. The pressure to be visually appealing, emotionally upbeat, and socially magnetic is heavy. Compliments often feed into that pressure. You look stunning, you light up the room, you're so fun to be around. But when you shift the focus to how her presence makes others feel safe, you're telling her something she may not even know about herself. You're saying, you're not just a spark, you're a sanctuary. And for a woman who has been seen only for her brightness, being recognized for her softness is unforgettable. This kind of compliment shows a different level of awareness. It means you've observed how she listens to people without interrupting, how she holds eye contact without judgment, how she speaks in a way that invites others to open up. You've seen how people gravitate to her not for entertainment, but for ease. You've noticed how her presence relaxes tension in the air, how her laughter doesn't just bring joy, it brings peace. That's rare. That's not the kind of thing people usually point out. But when you do, you're telling her you see the emotional intelligence she carries and that it matters. Women don't often get credit for being emotional anchors. It's expected of them in friendships, in relationships, in families, but rarely is it celebrated. So when you recognize it and genuinely say you love it about her, it's a revelation. She might even pause when you say it because it's not something she hears often, and in that pause, something shifts. She realizes that you're not just watching her, you're understanding her. You're tuned in to who she is beneath the image, beneath the mask, beneath the role she plays every day. When a man can see the strength in a woman's nurturing, the quiet power in her ability to hold space, the grace in her emotional presence, it creates a connection that's not just romantic, but respectful. And respect creates depth. It tells her that she is more than just her aesthetics, more than just her sexuality, more than just her charm. She's someone who creates emotional safety, and that's one of the most attractive forces on earth. Because while beauty catches the eye, safety captures the soul. This compliment also tells her something about you. It reveals that you're emotionally in tune, that you value softness as much as strength, that you're not afraid to acknowledge something most men overlook. And when you speak from that place of emotional maturity, a woman doesn't just feel admired, she feels honored. That opens a door. That creates trust. And trust is the foundation of real desire, the kind that goes beyond surface attraction and into something more enduring. A woman who makes people feel safe is often the one who is quietly carrying everyone else's burdens, the one who always shows up, the one who creates calm in chaos. When you see that in her and reflect it back with a compliment so pure, so sincere, it becomes more than just words. It becomes validation. You've told her, without touching her, that she is already doing something powerful. She's already affecting the world around her just by being herself. And that realization changes everything. Most men spend their energy trying to impress a woman, hoping that through effort, gifts, or attention, they'll win her interest. But what they don't realize is that the real key isn't in impressing her, it's in impacting her. And that impact often comes from saying what others are too blind or too afraid to say. There's a certain compliment that rarely makes it out of a man's mouth, but when it does, it can shift everything between him and a woman. It's when you look at her and say, you make the space around you feel more alive. It's not about her beauty, it's not about her achievements, it's not even about how she makes you feel directly. It's about the ripple effect of her existence. You're recognizing that her presence has energy, motion, rhythm, that she is not just part of the room, she transforms the room. And the moment you speak that truth into her reality, something in her responds on a level that's deeper than admiration. She feels seen not just for what she does, but for what she is. That's the kind of acknowledgement that goes to the soul. Women spend their lives being reduced into roles, into labels, into measurements and metrics. Pretty, cute, hot, smart, fun. But those are categories, not essence. They don't capture the warmth she brings when she laughs, the spark that ignites when she walks into a space and everyone subtly shifts, not because of her outfit, but because of her energy. They don't describe the natural confidence in how she carries herself, or the way her curiosity turns a dull moment into a vibrant one. When you tell a woman she makes everything around her feel more alive, you are holding up a mirror to a truth she might have sensed, but never spoken. It's a but rarely heard. And it only lands when it's said with awareness, not as a line, but as a moment of recognition. Maybe you notice it when you're out with her and strangers open up around her, or when you're watching her listen with intensity and bring out emotion from someone who's normally closed off. Maybe it's in the way she dances freely, or in the quiet confidence in her silence. Whatever the trigger, you're tuned in enough to see that her impact on the environment isn't something she's trying to create, it's something she is. She doesn't perform energy, she radiates it. And you're simply affirming that. What makes this compliment so powerful is that it takes her out of comparison. It's not about her being better than someone else. It's not a competition or ranking. It's a pure, unfiltered statement about her natural frequency. It tells her that when she's around, life expands a little. Colors feel more vibrant. Conversations feel more real. Time slows down just enough to notice the way she moves, speaks, connects. You're telling her that she doesn't have to do anything spectacular to be remembered. Her presence is the spectacle. Most men miss this because they're caught up in performance themselves, trying to appear strong, wealthy, funny, mysterious. But the men who know how to observe, who know how to say the thing that's felt but unspoken, they stand out. They bypass the outer shell and speak directly to the inner world. That's where the connection happens. That's when a woman begins to feel not just liked, but understood. And understanding is where attraction deepens into something more magnetic. So when you say you make the space around you feel more alive, you're offering her a perspective she rarely hears. One that doesn't demand anything from her, doesn't require her to pose or perform. You're simply reflecting her truth. And in doing that, you've done something most men never even think to do. You've touched something invisible and made it visible. You've taken something she's always carried and put it into words that reach further than flattery ever could. So if you truly want to stand out, don't chase her with shallow words. See her with deeper ones. Speak to her soul, not just her style. Compliment what the world overlooks. Because when a woman feels recognized for who she is, not just how she looks, that's when she remembers you. Not for a moment, but for a feeling she'll crave again.